Hello and welcome to my live. I'm Jasmine Birtles. This is my live. And what I'm going to do today is to talk to Ruby Larum, who is the investing editor at moneymagpie.com. That's my website, moneymagpie.com. If you haven't been on it already, do go on it because it's really fantastic. Of course, I would say that, but you know, I like to think that it is actually a really good one. So do have a look. As I'm talking, I'm just looking to see if Ruby has joined yet, because when she does, I'm going to be accepting her. So as soon as she comes on the list, I'll be like, yay! Now I'm going to wave at somebody. Oh, yes, we've got some very interesting comments already. This is great. I like it. Thank you very much for your comments and your waves. I'm going to wave back at all sorts of people. Nice to see you. As I say, I'm waiting for Ruby to join, because as soon as she does, I'll put her on. But just to let you know that Money Magpie covers all kinds of investing. Particularly, we talk about a lot of investing ideas. We talk about personal finance, of course, and we particularly, oh, here we are, Money Magpie Invest joined. Now, I think I get her. That's worked, because we have discussed, we've done this before. This is a stupid thing. Here we are. Here as well. I was just about to say, this is a stupid thing. We've done this before, and I do it, you know, once a month. We are doing once a month podcasts, and each time I think, how do I do it? How do I get Ruby? Which is just yeah, good to have you, Ruby. Thanks for joining. So,
You're very
Ruby,
welcome.
you are in Chichester right now. Is that right? You're based.
I am.
Yeah.
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Lovely place. And we're going to be talking about investing in gold. And we've got all sorts of, we've got a lot of people joining, which is, I think a lot of people are really interested in investing in gold. And I'll just say from the start, the reason we're doing this live is because we've got a really fab free ebook that you have written. Can you tell me a little bit about the ebook?
Yes, so it's an ebook that discusses all the different ways to invest in gold. So we discuss buying physical gold, investing in gold ETFs, investing in gold mining stocks, the pros and cons of each, and basically giving you the information that can help you to decide which investment is most suitable for your investment goals and your portfolio.
Yes, absolutely. And it's totally free. Now, I've got a link to it in my profile. I've got a link to it. I've called it Gold Ebook. So if you go to my profile, it'll be there for the next 24 hours. Just click on that link. You get it for free, and you will have to sign up. You will have to sign up to the investing newsletter, which is also free, totally free. And you can always unsubscribe. So, you know, don't worry. And have you got it on in your profile, Ruby?
I actually haven't. I will put that in there though now,
Good
so
woman,
that
yes.
we have it in both. But you can also find it if you search for Money Magpie Invest Gold ebook. It will come up as well if you just search that in Google. So that's another super easy way to find it if you are struggling with the links in the bio.
And your Instagram link is Money Magpie Invest, isn't it?
Yes.
So yeah, after this, if somebody goes on to Money Magpie Invest, follows you, so important. If you're not following me, why not? Come on, follow me. I mean, you know, obviously, but definitely go follow Ruby, because Ruby, you post all sorts of investing tips, nice, easy ones to follow. I know, which is really good. And so that's great. So listen, that's the ebook. That's what we have to follow you. We have to sign up to the ebook for free, and the fabulous fortnightly newsletter for free, which you can always unsubscribe to. So don't worry. I know it's so annoying. I spend my life unsubscribing to things. I feel at the moment. But the question I get asked a lot is, how do you invest in gold? And there are so many ways. But should we start with the most obvious, which is, you know, actual solid physical gold?
Yes.
What are the ways? How do you invest in physical gold, and where do you go to do it?
Well, I think probably the most traditional way and one of the most obvious ways is buying gold jewelry, which you can buy from shops, you can buy from pawn shops, you can buy from jewelry shops. And that, I suppose, is personally, it's what I think of when I think of traditional gold. So I think of, you know, gold necklaces, gold rings, earrings, and anything like that you can hold physically in your hands. It looks nice. It will hold its value over time, but it's also something that is tangible and you can have in your home. And then there's obviously gold bars as well. So gold bars, it will be slightly different. So you'd have to go through a broker rather that gets them from the Royal Mint. So you have to make sure that what you're investing in is legitimate, authenticated gold bars. And for those, the storage would be a bit more difficult. So you might have to invest in some kind of safe, or you can get them actually stored for you by the platform that you choose to invest from. It usually depends how much you buy. If you buy a significant amount, then you probably wouldn't want that hanging around in your home because it comes with its own obvious risks. So yeah, it really depends on your budget and how much gold you actually want to buy if you're buying physical gold.
You can actually buy it directly from the Royal Mint, can't you? I mean, you can go
Yes.
onto
Yeah.
royalmint.co.uk and they
Yes.
sell their sovereigns, their coins. They've always got new coins,
Yeah.
and they've got actual bullion, actual gold bars, and they've got some that are like, this sort of
Yes.
size. It's teeny weeny because it's so
Yeah.
expensive now.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they will store it. They will store it for you, won't they, if you want to?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So yeah, they can store it for you, or they can post it to you. So it's obviously tracked postage, and that can be posted to your home, and you can store it yourself if that's
And
something that you're
also,
comfortable doing.
actually, when it comes to storage, we've got friends at bullionclub.co.uk. Harry Thorne is a big friend of moneymagpie.com, and we've had him on a number of webinars and whatever. So he runs bullionclub.co.uk, and I know he sells bullion. I mean, he mainly sells sovereigns, but he sells bullion, and he will store your sovereigns and your bullion and whatever for you as well. Obviously, there's a cost that, whatever
Yeah.
you do, there's always a cost. But I don't know. Personally, I personally like that idea better than having a safe. I had a locksmith round the other day, just sort out some locks, and he said, as I've heard other people say, that if you have a safe, that basically says to burglars, "Look, I've got something to
Yeah.
steal,"
Yeah.
and a lot of them are really easy to just, take off the wall if needed, really.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
And then what about, we've mentioned sovereigns. I mean, as I mentioned, of course, the Royal Mint itself sells sovereigns. Bullion Club, I know, sells Royal Mint sovereigns. But you do see these adverts for like commemorative sovereigns. Are they worth buying?
So I think it really depends. So you need to do a bit of research into the coin. There are some coins that are commemorative that will have more value because of the significance of the coin. Again, through platforms like Bullion Club and the Royal Mint, you can find out which coins are actually worth collecting and will keep their value over time. So it's really about doing a bit of research. But it's always best to go through an official provider like the Royal Mint because they authenticate each of the coins and can tell you that those coins will hold their value over time.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I have heard of people buying commemorative coins that they've seen at the back of a newspaper or,
Yeah.
on social media or whatever. And because they weren't produced by the Royal Mint, they actually weren't worth anything
Yeah.
like what they bought them for. And that's a bit miserable, I think. If you if you're going to spend all that money, you want to know that it's a genuine investment. And
Yes.
there is an advantage, a tax advantage, well, a few tax advantages to buying sovereigns, particularly, aren't there?
Yes, so sovereigns classed as legal tender in the UK. So technically you could use them as money. And for that reason, you don't pay capital gains tax on any returns that you make. So it comes with that advantage, especially if you're planning on holding them long term and potentially giving them to family or selling them for a bigger purchase down the line. You won't have to pay capital gains tax on those coins, which you would have to pay if you invested in something like stocks or even gold bars because they don't class as legal tender.
And also no VAT for that same reason, because then, I
Yes,
mean,
yeah.
let's be honest, you wouldn't go into the shop and buy an ice cream with a gold
No,
sovereign.
no.
But theoretically you could. Therefore, it's currency. Therefore, you don't have VAT. You don't have capital gains tax. And I have heard, between us, right, between us, there are a lot of people who are transferring money into sovereigns because there's no register of them. So, they're leaving their kids and their grandkids, bags of sovereigns. That's what that loophole will be probably closed at some point. But, just at the moment, this is what I'm hearing from one or two people who asked to be kept anonymous. And also, now something that I do, and I know a lot of people do, is I have digital gold. I think it's a good idea to have a bit of both, because there are
Yeah.
advantages to both. So
Yeah.
what are the ways, we've talked about digital gold. Again, people go, what do you mean digital gold? How do I get digital? What are the ways that you can invest in gold digitally?
So you would have to go through a digital gold broker. So Tally is a good example that I believe we actually have a partnership with. You can get free gold if you use Money Magpie 100, I think it might be. I will have to double check that.
Yes.
So it essentially works a bit like an online stock brokerage. So you create an account, you deposit money, and then you buy your digital gold with the money that you deposit, and then that's stored in your account online, so you can see your balance and you can sort of track the value of your gold investment.
Yes, I like Tally. I mean, there's
Mm.
Tally and there's Glint as well, and
Yeah,
there's gold money. And
yeah,
the idea really is to use gold, but sort of invest in gold, but be able to spend with it using a
yes,
card. So
yes,
I know with my account, you can either have a credit card or you can have an app. You can use your app like you would
yeah.
with anything. And the handy thing is with Tally or any of these gold accounts. You can use it anywhere in the world, and so you could be spending in euros, but you're actually spending gold.
Yeah,
So there's you don't have a problem with the exchange rate, put it that way. I
yes,
mean, I don't. I Now that gold is going up so well, I don't really use mine. But occasionally for dollars or something like that, if you need to buy something in dollars, it is useful for that, I have to say.
yes,
But there's also bullion vault, and again, that's a useful one if you want to just invest in gold. They will, if you want it, they will send you the gold yourself. But the easier thing is to let them store it. Have you used bullion vault?
I haven't personally used Bullion Vault, but I have done a lot of kind of research into them, and yeah, I've sort of gone over the process of how they work. And I do agree, I think they are one of the best platforms to use if you are buying gold and you want it stored for you, because I know that they do offer a storage solution, which, like you say, I think obviously you can store your gold at home, but it is quite obvious, and there
Yeah,
is a lot of risk that will come with
yeah.
storing it, especially if you want to buy a significant amount. So I do think going through a platform like Bullion Vault and having it stored for you is definitely a good solution if you want to buy quite a significant chunk of gold.
And all of these things, of course, they cost,
Yeah,
and that's something that comes as a bit of a horrible surprise when
yes,
you think,
yeah,
"Oh, I've got this amount," and then you go, "Hold on, they've just taken money out of my account every month." And they all do it. They all do, and
yes, yeah.
that is the cost,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, I think for that reason, it's definitely, if you're buying physical gold and you're having it stored for you, it's definitely more suitable for people that are investing long term. Otherwise, those fees will just eat into the value of the
Yeah.
gold that you purchase. So it's a better solution for people who are investing for, say, 10, 15, even 20 years, and they can afford to watch the gold grow at a rate that it will actually basically pay for the storage for you. So the growth will pay for its storage fees itself, if that makes sense.
Yes, that's great. So now, Ruby, as you know, we at Money Magpie just a couple of weeks ago we had a webinar all about
Yeah,
Bitcoin v gold. Which
yeah,
is the best investment, Bitcoin or gold? And I think we were sort of fairly equal about it. That there are advantages and disadvantages to both. And one
yes,
of the people we had on it, and if anybody would like to see that webinar, by the way, because we recorded it, we put it on the YouTube channel, the Money Magpie YouTube channel. So just go to YouTube and look at the Money Magpie YouTube channel. It's fabulous anyway. You should follow. You should follow and subscribe and all of that, and like and comment, and all the things you're supposed to do, blah blah blah. Everybody says you've got to keep telling people to follow. You've got to shut up, I think. But one of the people we had on there is Charlie Morris, who runs something called Byte Tree, and he actually has a gold and Bitcoin fund, which is really
yes,
interesting. It's called Bold. Get
yeah,
it? Bitcoin, gold, bold, clever, huh? And it's doing really well. He's got, I think it's 2/3 gold, 1/3 Bitcoin, and it's returning about 14%, something like that. Now, he did tell me that it's actually quite difficult to invest in it through the UK because of the FCA.
mm.
Honestly, it drives me nuts. They go, "Ooh, Bitcoin, ooh, scary, scary." Um, but there are other ways to invest in gold through the stock market, aren't there?
Yes, so you can buy gold ETFs. So they're essentially a fund that tracks the price of gold. So you can trade it on a stock exchange just like you would a regular stock. So it's more liquid, which means that you can buy it and sell it easier. It often also comes with lower fees than buying physical gold because you don't have to store it. So you're not actually buying the underlying asset, you're just buying a fund that tracks the price of gold.
Yes, which is good. So ETF stands for Exchange Traded Fund, which
Yeah.
frankly doesn't help. You know, people say, "What's an ETF?" And you go, "It's an exchange traded fund." People go,
Yeah.
and I mean, because the way I explain them, I mean, they're like index tracking funds, which again doesn't
Yes.
really explain it. It's kind of, they're run by computer really, and they have a little bit of your money invested in a whole load of whatever it is, stocks, or it could be, well, with gold, they just, you know, they invest in gold, and it's done through, because it's done through a computer, it's the costs are much lower than they would be if we had an actual physical, you know, actual human being picking and choosing and wanting a new Porsche Boxster every Christmas, that sort of thing, you know. How would you describe an ETF?
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good way of describing it. The best way I would describe it is you're buying a digital asset. So you're investing in something that doesn't physically exist. You couldn't physically hold it in your hands, but it's set up to track the value of, so in this case, it'd be gold. You can also get ETFs that track the value of things like the FTSE 100, which is the largest UK stocks. And you can also get it for American stock market and any stock market. There are tons of different ETFs out there that you can
There
invest
really
in.
are.
And
I mean,
it's just,
yes.
yeah, it's a really good way to basically invest in something without having to pick out individual stocks. So you don't have to do any of the difficult research. You just invest in one ETF, and that ETF is set up to track the value of whatever it is that it's tracking for you. So you don't
Yes.
have to do the managing part of it yourself.
Because it could be, I mean, I've got an ETF that tracks India.
Yeah,
It's just, you know, the
yeah,
Indian economy. You could get one that tracks Brazil, or Asia minus Japan, or Asia minus China, or, you know, there are, as you say, there are thousands of ETFs around. They're hugely popular, probably because they're so cheap, basically,
yes,
compared
yeah.
to other types. So there are gold ETFs. One thing, I know my friend Tim Price, who was also on our webinar, he runs Price Value Partners. It's a boutique wealth management company. He's always saying, be careful with ETFs, because you must make sure that they really do have the gold they say they've got.
Yes.
So that's something to be aware of. Do you know how we can do? Is there a way that you can really know, or?
So I think a lot of the time it would be going onto the ETF provider and looking at exactly what they're investing the money into.
Yeah.
Obviously, in terms of knowing for sure whether they do hold physical gold, that is just a bit of trust, I think. But if you go through an established provider like VanEck, for example, it
Yeah.
has a good reputation, then
Mhm.
there's a high chance that, you know, they are actually investing in the gold. I would suggest with all investments, not just gold ETFs, but make sure you're going through a platform that has a good reputation and not just a platform that has been shared on Instagram and has gone viral or something like that. You have to make sure that you are going through a legitimate company.
Yes. Now, again, so with the staying with stocks and shares and everything, there's what they call gold miners, which to
Yes.
start off with, I thought were just little gold bits, but no, we're talking mining companies, aren't we? So
Yes.
that's a whole other world. What are your thoughts on investing in gold miners at the moment, mining stocks?
So, gold mining stocks, the price does tend to follow the price of gold slightly. So, obviously, when there's a high demand for gold, gold miners will typically make more profit because more people are buying the gold that they're mining. However, what you've got to be careful of with these stocks is that they don't just track the price of gold, it's also based on the performance of the company. So, when you're investing in a gold mining stock, the performance of, or the price of that stock might not necessarily grow or perform in the same way as buying gold itself, because you've also got to factor in company performance and things like that, which could have, it could either cause more growth if the company does very well, or it could mean that the price doesn't quite grow as much as the price of physical gold if the company has some kind of struggle or challenge that causes the price of the company to drop or the price of the share to drop.
Yeah, I have to say, gold mining companies have been lagging
Mm.
behind the gold price quite a lot. But, you know, Tim is interested in, you know, and he has also said that he thinks, although they're lagging behind, they will have to come up at some point.
Yeah,
On the whole, I mean, as you say, it depends very much on the company. There, it depends
yeah.
where they are geographically. There are sort of all sorts of geographical and socio-economic problems in various places where you've got mines, but they're all that. But as a bulk, he feels that they're going to come up. But it's a risk, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, also you've got to think of costs of running a company. That's something else that can eat into the profit. So there are I'd say there are a lot more variables when you're investing in a gold mining stock to look at and consider than when you're just buying physical gold.
Yes. Now, what about silver? Because I'm always being asked about silver. What do you think of silver as an investment at the moment?
So silver is also seen as a hedge against inflation, but it comes with the added benefit of having quite high industrial demand, which means that it's used for building a lot of electrical products, rather. So the demand is influenced by industry as well as investors. So for that reason, it can have slightly higher growth potential than gold, but it also is a little bit more volatile. So it also comes with higher risks than just investing in gold itself.
It has lots of use cases, which on the whole gold doesn't have. Gold is just,
Yeah.
earrings. But on
Yes.
the whole, I mean, it's used in a few manufacturing
Yeah.
products. But silver is amazing, particularly with like solar panels,
Yeah.
electric
Yeah.
cars. I mean, it's incredible. I'm really surprised that it's not worth more than it is, because
Mm.
compared to gold, I think it should be 9 times more than it is at the moment. So I've certainly got friends who are investing in it, waiting, and waiting for it to go up. Do you think
Yes.
that's a good plan?
Yeah, I mean, so like you say, renewable energy is obviously a sector that's getting bigger and bigger year by year, and silver is used a lot in that industry. So I do think that it has growth potential. I know a lot of analysts are forecasting it to continue to grow. And also, if you look historically, silver tends to perform quite well when markets are recovering, a little more so than gold does. So gold performs very, very well when markets are struggling because people rush to it as a safe haven.
Yes.
Whereas when markets are recovering, people might want to take money out of that gold to reinvest it back into things like stocks and shares. Silver, because it is used in industry slightly more, tends to perform better when the market's recovering. So once the market starts to go back up again, it could definitely perform well.
That's really good to know. What about any other money metals? Have you heard anything about how palladium is doing, or platinum? I tend not to hear very much about those. They tend to be a
No,
bit quiet, don't they?
they do. I mean, I haven't heard too much recently. I think sort of similar to silver, they're a very good alternative to gold. They have, use cases as well as just being, pretty shiny metals that you can look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they aren't typically seen as a safe haven or a hedge against inflation as much as gold. So demand isn't quite as strong for those assets when the markets are struggling.
Mm.
And like you said, I think people don't really talk about them as much just because, they aren't gold. I think when people think of metals to invest in, everyone just goes to gold and they kind of forget that actually these other metals exist. But I think if you're looking to invest in precious metals and you want to diversify, which means not putting all of your money into just one thing, then it's definitely a good idea to kind of look around and see which other metals have use cases and how they perform in certain market conditions, because everything performs differently and it's always worth having a bit of diversification so that you can hold strong no matter what the market's doing.
Now, Kelly has asked a question, I think, or made a comment, and I can't quite read it here. I've got you behind it, and it's in white. So if you can have a look, Ruby, see if you can find Kelly's question, see if you can see
Yes.
it. And in the meantime, I was just thinking that it's worth being aware of the price of gold. And we're just going to go back to how gold is. Because I did a podcast with Dominic Frisby this week. Dominic I call him an economist. He says, I'm not an economist, but he's very good at explaining economic issues. And he was saying that central banks are investing heavily in gold again. They were in the 50s, then it became sort of not particularly interesting. Now they're all piling into gold. And that's one of probably the main reason, honestly, why gold is going up. But
Yeah.
he said it's got a long way to go. John Butler on our webinar said that it could be $20,000 per troy ounce. Currently, it's $3,000, or around about $3,000 per troy ounce. What do you think? Do you think it could go up, to 20,000? What's your, if you look into your crystal ball, Ruby?
Yes. I mean, I can definitely see gold continuing to go up. I think, the political tensions around the world aren't really going anywhere, and though that's the kind of market where gold does tend to thrive. I also think more and more people are starting to be a little bit skeptical of keeping all of their money in cash, which is sort of involved with central banks and governments. I think people are looking for alternatives, which is why both gold and also Bitcoin are quite popular. They're not controlled by any central authority. Or, I mean, gold isn't controlled by a government or a central bank, so gold will have the same value no matter where you are in the world. So I think for that reason it will continue to be very popular as we sort of have the current conditions that we've got at the moment.
Yes. And the other question I would say is, what percentage of your investments should be gold and maybe silver as well, money metals?
Yeah.
It's, yeah. What do you think?
So I think this really depends on your risk appetite and your investment horizon. So gold is a very, very good safe haven. It's a good way to hedge against inflation, but growth that you see on gold might not be quite as high as you would see on something like stocks or even cryptocurrencies. So I think if you're someone who's got a very long investment horizon and you want to see growth, it might be worth putting sort of 20 to 30% of your investment in something like gold, and then the rest of it in growth stocks that have higher growth potential. However, if you're someone that's slightly more risk averse, maybe you don't have as long an investment horizon, maybe more like 40%, so that you can kind of protect a larger portion of your wealth with gold. But it's just kind of considering whether you want to see the huge growth but with more risk, or less growth but less risk. Basically.
Yes, it's a tricky one. What about Bitcoin? We'll just, mention, because we did talk a lot about, the pros and cons of gold versus Bitcoin. I
Yes,
mean,
yeah.
personally, I go for both, but what do you think are the pros and cons?
So I think with Bitcoin, the main pro when you're looking at it against gold is that it does have that growth potential. However, it's very, very volatile, as I'm sure a lot of people have seen. It can go up and down very quickly, much quicker than gold. It's also a lot newer, so things like regulation around it are still quite up in the air, which could affect the price. We don't really know how the regulatory landscape is going to look moving forward for Bitcoin, whereas for gold, where it's been around for so long, it's regulated, it's used in every country around the world. I can't really see any regulations coming in that will massively affect the price of gold. I can't see it being banned anywhere, for example, whereas Bitcoin, that could still very much happen. So I think Bitcoin is riskier, but there is higher growth potential. So again, it just depends on your risk appetite.
Yes, exactly. Have a bit of both. That's,
Yeah.
that's all I think.
Exactly.
Well, Ruby, now I'm just looking at what I'm trying to read what Kelly has said, and
Yes. So I
can
think
you see?
it was a question asking around sort of the amount
Starting.
of money and the returns over time. So
Yes.
when you're looking at gold, so this year gold has performed significantly well. So performed sort of around 26%, I think, at the moment, from the last time I looked. So that's quite a good return year to date.
It
Obviously, that's
certainly
not
is.
always the case. We are in a particularly sort of struggling economy right now, so that's why gold has performed that well. It might not perform that well every single year. When the economy is thriving, it might look more like sort of 7-8% or something, maybe even 5% if people are investing more and more in things like stocks and shares. So I really think you have to factor in the different economic conditions. But say it continues to keep growing by around 20%, then if you invested even say £1,000, you might look at a £200 profit on that over a year's time. But that just depends on whether or not gold continues to grow at the rate that it is.
Now I've got another question. Can't see the name, but what's your view on owning gold? And the I'm assuming you're meaning owning physical gold, really, compared to other assets. So compared to other assets, I mean, we always say this is the fundamental rule of investing: spread your bets,
Yeah.
diversify. Again, they come up with this sort of tricky word, diversify. It means spread your bets. That's
Yeah.
what it means.
Yeah.
So, it's always, in my view, a good idea to have a spread of assets that you've invested in, a spread of different stocks and shares, and certainly gold should be part of, not just the only
Yes.
part of your investment. So, what do you feel about that, Ruby?
Yeah, I agree. I personally think owning physical gold is something that I would consider it myself. I think the reason I quite like owning physical gold is not only that it's a good investment, but you can also give it to people as
Yes.
a gift, which I think is a really nice idea. So it's the sort of gift you can give to someone that will actually hold its value over time. So it's, especially if you're someone who's maybe nearing the age of retirement and you're thinking about potentially giving some of your wealth to your family, investing in something like a gold sovereign is a really nice way to give them something that has value, but it's also tangible. You can hold it, it looks nice, you know, it's just quite a nice thing to have. In
Yes.
terms of sort of returns over time, I agree. I think you need to split your portfolio between assets that are safer, so things like gold and bonds, and then assets that will have higher potential for growth, so things like stocks and shares or venture capital or even property. One thing I would say about gold is that it doesn't give things like dividends. So if you're someone
Yeah.
who's looking for income investing, you might want to allocate a smaller percentage of your portfolio to gold because it doesn't give dividends, whereas something like stocks and shares or even REITs would do. So it's just worth considering what your goals are and your investment horizon.
Mind you, having said that, as I was saying to somebody at the weekend, if gold is going up as far as you say, 26%,
Yes, yeah,
that's an income really
it is. It
ultimately.
is. Yeah,
And you don't have, with some of it, you don't have CGT, so
yeah,
yes, CGC tax. You don't
yeah,
get that kind of tax, which is a help. So yeah, I think we've probably covered most aspects, but all of this is covered in your ebook, isn't it? And it's got links in it so you can click
yeah,
through if you want to, if you think to yourself, I really want to buy some gold and I don't know how to. We've got a list of places you can buy physical gold, where you can invest in digital gold,
yeah,
and there are actual clickable links that you can do that and click through, get your credit card out, do it, bam, happened. Because I mean,
yeah,
I know what it's like. You just think, I don't want all that nuisance. I don't want to be constantly getting all my bits and pieces out and then not getting, you have to get your passport out, you have to show who you are and all of that. And then you want to actually know that you have got some gold or
yeah,
silver or whatever it is. So we
yeah,
can do that through that ebook. And remind us again how you get hold of that ebook. Apart from going on my profile at Instagram, there's a link, it says gold ebook. So that's one way.
yeah.
How else can we get that gold ebook?
So the link will also be placed in the Money Magpie Invest bio on our Instagram as well, so you can go through there. And then another really easy way to find it is to go on Google and just search Money Magpie Gold ebook, and it will come up as the first search result. So that's another easy way. But going through our links is probably the quickest way to access that.
And you will be required to sign up to our free Money Magpie Invest newsletter. It's a fortnightly newsletter. Ruby and I put it together, mainly Ruby actually. It's fantastic, honestly. It's free and you can unsubscribe at any time. So really, I don't think there's a problem there, frankly. So just go and get our free ebook all about how to invest in gold, silver, other money metals. There's lots there. So that will be easy to do. And so I've got someone else. Where is the safe? Oh, sorry. Where is the safest place to store physical gold? Yeah. A safety deposit box. The problem now with banks is they're not really doing these deposit boxes, are they? I mean, because this is what I keep finding, that a lot of them, well, they haven't got the banks.
Yeah,
They're not physically there.
yeah,
So, a lot of them are not offering safety deposit boxes. Like I said, you can do a safe in your house, but you have to be really careful because, on the whole, if you have a safe, that says to burglars, oh, they've got something. And,
yeah,
there are all sorts of ways of grabbing that safe. I personally think it's a good idea to buy gold with a company like the Royal Mint or Bullion Club and then pay for them to store it. I mean, unless you've got somewhere in your house that you think is absolutely, totally safe and nobody will know about it. If you have, well done. I don't know. What do you think, Ruby?
I agree. I think going through a company like Bullion Vault who can store it for you is a good idea. And a lot of the time they will insure your gold as well. So it's definitely safe. And, they have the facilities to keep it safe, probably more so than you would yourself. I also think just kind of the peace of mind of knowing that it's not in your home.
Yeah.
Personally, I like to sort of go on trips away quite a lot. I think the thought of having a safe in my home whilst I'm away would be a little bit, it would put me on edge basically. Whereas knowing that it's with a company that has security probably around it 24/7, it's safe, it's sound, I don't need to worry about it. So I definitely think that's the easiest way, especially if you're planning on holding it for a very long time.
Great. Thank you, Ruby, and thank you everybody who's joined. It's been lovely to see you all. I've waved at everybody who's waved at me because I'm like that. So do go to the link on Jasmine Birtles or the link on Money Magpie Invest Instagram pages. You'll find the gold ebook link there, or as Ruby says, go to moneymagpie.com or just put moneymagpie.com gold ebook into Google, into your search bar or whatever, and it'll come up, and you can get it for free, download it for free. Sign up to the Money Magpie Invest newsletter, which is also free, and you can unsubscribe anytime. And you know, send us questions if you've got any more questions, because hey, tell you what, we do look at all comments, and so if you've got any other questions or queries, put them on Money Magpie Invest or on Jasmine Birtles, and we'll do our best to answer them. Ruby Larum, investing editor at Money Magpie, thank you so much for joining me. It's been really great having you live from Chichester. It's great.
You're very welcome.
We'll do another one of these next month or the month after. We've got so much to talk about,
yes,
you know, and it's always fun doing an Instagram live, and I hope you'll all join us. Thank you very much, and join us for the next one next month.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.